let's go ahead and let's talk about it. Let's talk about some news. We're gonna get the TV deal stuff right out of the way. We're gonna talk about that right off the bat because I am getting pretty close to sick of it. but I will say the TV deal talk does do my best YouTube numbers. So when I clip it, that's typically what does the best for me. Carlos Silva is doing his media rounds, promoting Bound for Glory, and he comes across as a guy that's super honest. Now he might not be honest, but in the interviews, he did one with a Battle on Air, the Battleground podcast on, I think it's an iHeartRadio deal. A lot of wrestling people do that show. I've never actually listened to it, but I know that guy gets like good guests because he's part of the iHeartRadio network. So, and I'm not dogging the guy, like good for him. He's got a good radio voice, so that's cool. Softball questions, stuff like, so when you do that, you typically will get more bees with honey, right? Than you do with vinegar. And so like guys like that are going to get guys like Carlos. And so that's good. Kudos to him. But he did multiple interviews. The one that I actually listened to was the one that he did with the Battleground show. And I got a kind of a compilation of some of his quotes, but multiple interviews this week. TNA president Carlos Silva provided optimistic updates on a pending TV deal, stating the company is pretty close. I think I've heard that one before. To finalizing a major U.S. rights agreement set to launch in 2026. So let me stop right there. I was of the opinion, this was my theory, and I stated it as such. And I was basing my theory, my hypothesis, off of their schedule that I had believed at the time. And I was looking at the schedule, and they had nothing on the books between Bound for Glory and November 13th, which was slated for Orlando, Florida. We have now since learned that on November 13th, they're going to be live on Thursday night from Full Sail University. Then the next night will be Turning Point, and then the following night will be a round of tapings, which is kind of a little unique for them to do 3 days in a row, but it's Full Sail, right? So you can do that in Full Sail. There's not that many. You're not going to get that many people in Full Sail, and to do a live episode right before a Friday night TNA Plus special, that's unique. And then to follow that up with another round of tapings. But the good thing is that in that little venue, like they could do the live episode on Thursday night, and they could tape right after that live episode. They can just tape matches, and they don't even have to do like the in-ring interviews and all that stuff. They can hold some of that other stuff that they're building for the subsequent episodes after Turning Point. They can do that on Saturday, right? They can do some of the meat, right? Or if there's something that's not even connected to the Friday show, they can tape that on Thursday, and that way they're not, spoiling their own live TNA Plus special if they wanted to. So they could conceivably get a month of episodes in, which it looks like they're getting like 3 to 4 weeks in. I don't really have the math in front of me, but that's what it seems like. And I know you're in the chat. You're in the chat. So if you got the dates, I forgot to write down the dates for the El Paso shows in December, but they're doing another round in December. But so let's see, where was I? Okay, so finalizing a U.S. major rights agreement set to launch in 2026. So I thought that November 13th date would have been the perfect day to launch a brand new live TV show. They're in Full Sail University. It's time for, they have a month between the pay-per-view and November 13th to kind of get their affairs in order as far as production, things like that. But it looks like that's not going to be the case. Looks like it's going to be pushed back into 2026. When in 2026, I don't know. It could be any one of the days in 2026. There is no time frame in 2026 when that would start. Ideally, it would be January, but who knows? Nobody knows what it looks like. Okay. He says, I think every day it gets closer. I certainly hope it gets announced before the end of the year. So I think the target date that people are the rumored target date would be Bound for Glory. That would make sense. But if they don't have the deal done, they can't make the announcement at that point, right? So it says here, now here was the interesting part. Here's the thing that everybody's kind of keying in on. We have an interested partner and we're working through potentially a deal for 2026. And described it as being on the 30-yard line, getting ready to score, emphasizing plans for more live programming while retaining some tape content. So there you go. So the important part of that was that they have an interested partner. So they've narrowed it down to a singular partner. Based on his quotes, right? They've narrowed it down to one partner, and it looks like that he said that partner is excited about them. They're excited about the partner. They're exchanging paperwork, and they're hoping that the deal gets signed pretty soon. To me, it sounds like it's like almost there, but I have been feeling that for a while, and so it's kind of like, I hate to, I don't want to betray you and the never-ending story, but so feel like we're getting caught up in the never-ending story. So December 5th, 6th, and 7th final resolution, and 2 taping nights. So there you go. So yeah, so December 5th from El Paso, Texas, at that awesome venue they ran earlier this year will be final resolution, and then they'll do 2 nights of tapings after that. So so it looks like November 3rd. So yeah, you're looking at like 3 weeks of shows that they'll have in the can. They'll probably, actually, now that I think about it, they might skip Thanksgiving, but we'll see. But yeah, so it looks like that deal should be announced any day now. I don't think that I'm going to be sitting here talking about it again next week unless there's an actual update. But I feel like we're getting closer, and that an announcement is imminent. And what that announcement will be, nobody really knows. But like I said last week on this show, and I've been saying for a while, all signs will be pointing towards CW. It makes the most sense. They're on CW every week. This week, they were heavily featured, heavily advertised, and the rating wasn't good, but it was still significantly. It was like 100,000 more than what AEW is doing. And they're going up against playoff baseball, so they're going up against the Dodgers were playing at 9 p.m. Eastern time, and the Yankees were playing like right before that. So Yankees and Red Sox, actually. So big games. Dodgers versus Reds. Dodgers with the clean sweep. So there you go. Yankees and Red Sox game 1. I think game 2 was last night, I think. No, game 2 was Wednesday. So up against Dynamite. Dynamite did like 468, which is horrible. So, man, they're having a rough go over in AEW. But NXT was not a good rating either, by the way. That one was pretty far down. And I think everybody's gonna be blaming baseball, which makes sense. But they're for the most part doing decent numbers for CW, right? And they're being heavily featured on NXT. All of the talent is all over those shows. They're slowly introducing the TNA talent all over the shows, and that way, whenever TNA has its own show, the CW audience and the NXT audience, they're not having to like learn who these people are all over. You know what I mean? Like they've already been introduced to them, and NXT has a casual audience, more hardcore than your mainstream main roster audience, but like a lot of people just like over 50 are watching that show, and they're like super casual people. So I think that's smart. But is that deal locked in? Well, of course not. We don't know what it is. Nobody knows what it is. I'm speculating. I'm guessing. I have no clue what it is. I do think that there is an interesting candidate out there that just emerged. I have not heard that they're in talks with this company, but it's a new station, actually an old station that's coming back. And I thought that they would be an interesting candidate, and that's NBC Sports Network. That was on for NBC Sports Network was out there for a while. It went through a couple of different name changes, but whenever it was on previously, it was called NBC Sports Network. And NBC got rid of that channel back in 2021, but they're actually making a comeback because NBC Universal is breaking off like USA, Bravo, and those other channels, MSNBC, which is going to be that's getting a new name. And all those networks, those family of networks, they're going to be broken off into like Versant is what it's going to be called. And then you got your NBC over here, and they're going to be doing heavy sports stuff. And so they're bringing back the NBC Sports Network. They just struck a deal with YouTube TV for clearance on there. I thought I read an awful announcing that it looks like they got some kind of deal with DirecTV. And as they get closer to the launch date, I think we'll see more and more carriers start to pick that up, because it looks like they might be bringing on MLB and NBA and Big Ten, and I think they got golf and NASCAR. So that actually might end up being a pretty big sports network. They might try to do a launch much like FS1. Then if it gets to FS1 level, then I think that could be a candidate for TNA. Not that it needs to be a big channel for TNA to be on there. I don't think that that's the case, but I'm saying that if it is a big one and then they get on there, that could be a big deal, because they would be like first run original programming on a brand new hot station that everybody's going to want to check out. That could be a big deal, especially if they got these mainstream sports that are being a part of it. And when you're a brand new channel, you need hours and hours of programming that's cheap and easy to produce, and pro wrestling fits that mold. And pro wrestling has been on NBC Universal stations and USA Network like from the beginning of fucking cable. And so having TNA a part of that makes a ton of sense to me. Especially if it's NBC Universal, you could package that up with a Peacock deal. Now, again, I'm just talking out my ass. I don't know if anything like this is going to happen, but I've just been talking to other fans, and it's interesting speculation to say the least. My preference still remains the same, Paramount, but I don't think we're getting that. That has not even been rumored. That's just been me talking. So, but yeah, so that is the latest on the TNA TV deal. Not November 13th like we thought. It's earmarked for 2026, but I still believe that hopefully by Bound for Glory we get this announcement. I need this fucking announcement because I'm so sick of talking about it. I am so done with this story. Big new distribution deal. Gerard is far from sick of it. He thrives on it. This is his North Star, right? It's the TV deal, and it's Caleb Williams is like fingernail polish. Like that's what drives him to get up every day, I think. Well, on his family, of course. But yeah, Gerard. I gotta bust my friend's balls while I'm on the air.